I think you have to admit people.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Starting to admit now. Hey guys, for joining today. We're just waiting for some more people to join right now. We'll just wait one more minute and then we'll get started. The Q&A should be open too if you guys have any questions during the presentation or after. We'll also have a Q&A section at the end. All right, perfect. People are joining.
All right, Maxi, I think most people are in here. Should we get it started?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Awesome
thanks
stuff.
again for everyone joining.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Hi, welcome. Happy Thursday. We're going to be hopping into a webinar today called Smarter Financial Operations, Mastering AI and Finance with NetSuite and Quadient. So before we get started, we want to make sure everybody is collaborating as we go through the webinar today. You're going to notice a QR code bottom left of the screen. You can go ahead and grab your phones, take a quick picture of that QR code. We're going to be using that for some polls. And you will see this QR code pop up a couple more times, so don't worry if you miss it now. But hopping into the presentation today, we do have 4 speakers. I'm speaking right now. My name is Selena. I'll introduce myself first. I'm one of the channel development managers over at Quadient Accounts Payable. Mainly work with partners on the AP side. Started as a sales rep, moved into an account executive role. So from a technical perspective, any questions you guys can throw at me, put it into the Q&A chat as well. We'll answer all those questions at the end of the presentation. But that's all from me now. I'm going to pass it over to Guillermo to introduce himself.
Thanks, Selena. Hi, my name is Guillermo. I'm an AI consultant at Sky High, and my focus is on helping customers unlock the intelligence that's already sitting inside their ERP. And yeah, I'll pass it over to Maxi.
Hey guys, my name's Maxi. I've been at the company for a few months, though my current role is marketing coordinator. So my focus is to provide visibility and storytell more about what Sky High has to offer. I'll pass it over to Kristen.
Thanks, Maxie. Hi, everyone. It's fabulous to meet you today. My name is Kristen Tainai, and I am the Channel Development Manager for Quadient, but on the AR side. So we'll be covering a handful of different things today, both what's in NetSuite, AP, and AR as well. So any AR-related questions, I will take on, and we can roll from there.
All right, so starting off, so here we have Sky High ERP. We're a NetSuite professional services firm. We're built by 4 operators who spent years inside NetSuite environments that were technically live, but not actually working, meaning the system was recording transactions, but the business was still running on spreadsheets and tribal knowledge. We work with companies between 5 and 50 million revenue, mostly in distribution, manufacturing, professional services. Our focus is engineering NetSuite environments that surface intelligence, not just store it. So we're proud to say we have an 100% go live success rate across every implementation we have led. We're also proudly in North America and Canada and the US, I guess is both. We're also certified experts who have done 75 plus successful implementation projects to date. So that's the context for why we're here today. Now, let me go into Quadient. So not all of you may have heard of Quadient yet, so let me give you the short version of what they do and why we partnered with them. Quadient automates 2 things that NetSuite does not handle well on its own, AP and AR. They actually do a lot of other things, but today we're just going to focus on AP and AR. So on the AP side, Quadient captures vendor invoices using AI, matches them against POs, routes them through approval workflows, and syncs everything back to NetSuite in one place, making everyone's lives easier. Their customers report an 83% reduction in manual AP data entry, which is very impressive. On the AR side, Quadient AR, originally called YayPay, automates the collection side of finance. So invoice delivery, payment reminders, dispute management, cash application, you name it, they do all that. Their customers see an average 34% reduction in DSO and 94% accuracy in cash flow forecasting, which is also very impressive. So both products were built for NetSuite, not adapted from something generic. Over 2,100 finance teams are running on the platform today. So the reason we partnered them is pretty straightforward. With all that said, NetSuite has real gaps in AP and AR automation, and Quadient closes them cleanly without us having to build custom workflows for every single client. So if Quadient is the automation layer, the question is how the 2 of us actually work together. That's on the next slide. So NetSuite built to work together. SkyHigh and Quadient sit on either side of the same problem. Most finance leaders we talk to are tired of running their business on month-end reports. They want real-time data. They want to know what is happening now, not what happened 3 weeks ago. The reason most NetSuite environments cannot deliver that is not a software problem, it's a foundation problem. So on the left, that is the work SkyHigh does. We configure a chart of accounts, so margin visibility is in real time. We build custom workflows that automate approvals and handle exceptions. We integrate fulfillment, inventory, and HR data so the system reflects the whole business. And we build safe searches and dashboards that surface intelligence every day, not just at close. Once that foundation's in place, Quadient layers on top. So invoice capture and 3-way matching happen inside NetSuite. Payment scheduling gets prioritized by vendor behavior. AR collections are ranked by predictive risk. And fraud detection and duplicate payment prevention happen at the source before they become a problem at month end. So the 2 together do something neither does alone. SkyHigh makes your NetSuite environment ready to be acted on, while Quadient takes action on it automatically. The outcome is at the bottom of this slide. So finance leaders run on real-time data, not end-of-month reports. That is what we mean when we talk about building an intelligent ERP, not just adding more software, but configuring the foundation so the software you have can actually do its job. Pass it over to a question.
Awesome. Thanks, Maxi. That's a really great intro of exactly why we're partnering. Maxi, like you said, there's so many capabilities within NetSuite, but that gap that a lot of clients are looking for is having AP and AR, which is exactly why we're here today. But want to take a quick break and let's do a poll to get an understanding of how everybody is using generative AI today. So please go ahead and take a picture of the QR code. I'm going to do the same. Boom. And throw in your votes. So how often do you guys use generative AI? A, never, B, rarely, C, occasionally, or D, daily. I'll give everybody about 20 seconds. Put in your answer. Let's see.
I wish there was one that said every hour.
Yeah.
every 30 seconds.
Literally, Claude is my best friend.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Awesome. And as we're seeing the results come in, I'm seeing a lot of occasionally and daily, which is perfect because this is exactly what we're trying to cover today, which is going to be mainly focused on AI. But because AI is so brand new, it's kind of that new trendy word that everyone's talking about. I'm going to pass it over to Guillermo to talk a little bit more about understanding the different forms of AI. So Guillermo, take it away.
Thank you, Selena. So yeah, AI might mean something different for everyone in this call. Some of you are probably thinking of ChatGPT, some of you are probably thinking of automation, and some of you might be thinking about the new AI feature showing up on your ERP right now. So let's just quickly align on the three forms of AI that we will be discussing today. First, there's generative AI, which is what most people have encountered. So this creates content from context. For example, drafting a report, summarizing a document, or writing an email. So generative AI, it's fast, it's useful, but it's responding to what you give it. Then there is a predictive AI, which goes, I would say, a layer deeper. It looks at your historical data and tells you what's likely to happen next. For example, which customers are trending toward a problem, where your costs are headed, or what your cash flow could look like in the next 60 days. And then there is agentic AI, which I think this is where things get really interesting for finance teams because agentic AI doesn't just answer, but it can also act. So what I mean by this is when we connect AI to our systems, it can query those systems, it can create records, and it can also execute multi-step workflows on its own. So agentic AI, I would say, is the layer that starts to feel less like a tool and more like a collaborative team member, which actually brings up an interesting question that we want to hear from you. So for that, I'll pass it over to Kristen.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so go ahead and grab your phones out. Again, we have a total of 3 polls, so this will be the second one. Go ahead and scan the QR code. I just did the same as well. The next question is, how does your organization view AI in its financial process? And the options are A, positively, B, negatively, or C, unsure. I'll give you guys just a couple seconds here to get some answers in. Okay, cool. I see some coming through. I see a mixture of responses, a little bit of, we've got a mixed bag here, right? So we've got some people unsure where AI is going to take the organization, but we also see a lot of positive. Yeah, mostly unsure and positive is what we're seeing. So positive, kind of excited about the future, but then also it brings that clarity. We're just not really sure where it's going to take us. So a little bit of both, which is great. I think it kind of makes sense. Okay, so let's keep cruising on to the next slide. So one of the biggest questions that comes up whenever we talk about AI, especially in finance, is what does it mean for my job? And that's probably where a lot of the uncertainty comes in. But the reality is that AI isn't replacing finance professionals. What it's doing is it's actually just helping augment them. So you can kind of think of AI as an assistant that can handle repetitive tasks. It can handle those time-consuming work processes. It can help surface insights. It can help identify patterns much faster than a person can. But what's important to remember is that it still relies on that huge human judgment, experience, and business context to make those decisions. So if we look at the numbers, what we'll see is that impact goes way beyond efficiency. Research is actually showing that about 80% of employees believe that AI improves their performance, while about 63% say that it's actually making their work more enjoyable. That is significant when you consider that burnout affects more than 3/4 of the workforce today. By augmenting manual tasks, AI can help reduce that administrative burden. It can allow teams to focus on higher value work, by improving collection strategies, strengthening customer relationships, solving exceptions, and even driving better business outcomes. Ultimately, the goal of AI isn't to replace people, but it's to give finance teams more time, better information, and greater capacity to focus on work that actually does require that human expertise. So this brings us to our third and final poll. Everyone get your phones out one more time. Go ahead and scan that QR code. I'm doing the same here. Okay, the last question that we have for the day is, does your organization use AI outside of the financial process? And then we have A for yes, B for no, and C for maybe. We'll see where people are adopting AI as it sits today. All right, I'm seeing a lot of
yes.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of yeses, which makes total sense because I think all we hear about today is AI and how people are adopting it in one way or the other. And so I think that one definitely makes sense there. All right, cool. So we can keep cruising here. So when we think about finance specifically, one of the most practical applications of AI in finance today is really around predictive analytics. So simply put, predictive analytics uses historical and real-time data to forecast future outcomes. So in AR, what that means is that we're analyzing customer payment behavior to predict which invoices is likely to be paid on time, which accounts may pay late, and then when overdue invoices are likely to be collected. So traditionally, generating these insights require extensive spreadsheets, analysis, and a lot of manual calculations. So AI can help perform that analysis instantly, evaluating thousands of data points and continuously improving its accuracy as new information becomes available. For example, solutions like Quadient AR can actually deliver prediction accuracy of up to 94%. So we're giving teams as greater confidence in their cash flow forecasting and collection strategies as well. Now, the real value comes from those insights that are used and how they're used, right? So instead of treating every customer the same, AR teams can now focus their efforts on accounts that present the greatest risk while spending less time on customers with a consistent payment history. This allows collections teams to work more strategically, reducing the likelihood of late payments and bad debt, and improving productivity. Just as importantly, it creates a better customer experience by avoiding unnecessary follow-ups with customers who are already paying on time. Ultimately, AI helps AR teams shift from reactive collections to a more proactive cash flow management, making better decisions, prioritizing the right accounts, and driving stronger business outcomes. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Selena.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. So when we talk about AI improving insights in accounts payable, we mean getting a clearer view of vendor performance, meaning are vendors meeting SLA expectations or some due for reconsideration? So with AI, this helps answer this by analyzing delivery times, payment history, and qualitative reports. With delivery time analysis, it shows whether vendors are consistently meeting those SLA standards, can actually even help predict future performance. With payment history, it reveals the reliability on both sides. So demonstrating consistent on-time payments can strengthen your position in negotiating better discounts and rates. And then AI can also review qualitative data like customer experience and vendor self-assessments, identifying those trends that provide a more complete picture of the overall performance. Now, a continual challenge for AP teams is the need to stay current with increasing complex compliance laws. That was a doozy to say. So manual AP processes can make this complicated since members of the finance team need to go through and check each invoice for accuracy and follow the regulations as well. With AI, it simplifies this by automatically performing those checks. It'll find those discrepancies or even the duplicate invoices that come through. And it can also help manage handwritten invoices and also match multiple invoices to a single PO. So with AI, it's also extremely valuable for cash flow management, helps you strike the right balance, meaning paying on time to avoid penalties, but not earlier than necessary unless there's a clear benefit, like earlier payment discounts, as we discussed before. Now, by analyzing past payments, AI identifies patterns like early discount usage and late fees, and then it recommends the optimal payment timing to help you hold on to cash longer. The predictive analytics can also forecast when customers are likely to pay and estimate incoming cash on a given day, and it'll help you anticipate the shortfalls and better plan your payments, which we'll see a little bit later in the demos. Now, beyond the cash flow, AI also streamlines the AP process through smarter financial analysis, which means it learns as you go, like routing the invoices to the right approver. And it can also remember invoice coding down to the GL account based on the vendor and legal entity. That's a lot of work considering how much it's taking off your plate today. Now, on the flip side with AR, there are also several ways that AI can increase efficiency. So let's look at predictive analytics with respect to AR. Now, with machine learning and AI-powered analysis that informs you which invoices are likely to be paid late and when payment is likely to be received, can also combat payment bottlenecks and increase cash flow. With disputes, which can be a lengthy and frustrating process for both AR teams and your customers, that's going to be simplified as well. It'll help analyze your disputes and identify trends, allowing you to take those corrective actions to prevent further occurrences. Now, the technology also takes the grunt work out of manually analyzing your data, which is not only a complex process, but it's prone to error when handled manually. We're all human, we make mistakes. So a simple typo or miscalculation can upend the entire study, but with AI powering the process, can handle it quickly without any mistakes. Now, that being said, I'm gonna pass it back over to Maxi to talk a little bit more about why we're exploring AI and how that pertains to NetSuite.
Thank you, Selena. So NetSuite's no longer just recording what happened. It's starting to tell you what to do about it. So 3 things that changed in the 2026.1 release that make that real are the following. So embedded, not bolted on. What does that mean? So it is now embedded inside the workflows your team already uses, like reconciliation, close management, pricing, inventory. It surfaces where the work actually happens. Secondly, NetSuite now speaks to external AI platforms. Through something called the AI Connector Service, your live financial data becomes queryable in plain language, which means no exports, no middleware, no waiting for a report to run. If you've ever wanted to ask your ERP a question instead of building a very long save search to answer it, that capability now exists. Third, and this is the real point, is the gap between data and decisions is closing. So finance teams have always had the data. What was missing was a way to surface it as the moment a decision is needed to be made. That gap is what AI NetSuite is designed to close. So the question is not whether these capabilities exist, but whether your environment is configured to use them. That's exactly what SkyHigh builds, for which Guillermo will explain in the following slide.
Thanks, Maxi. So how does SkyHigh bring intelligence into NetSuite? As Maxi was saying, the capabilities do exist. The question is whether your environment is actually configured to take advantage of this, and that's where SkyHigh comes in, because we still hear from finance teams that the data is all there, they just can't get to it fast enough. They end up having to export to Excel, creating pivot tables, and waiting on month end to understand something that happened 2 weeks ago. And so by the time the report is ready, the moment to act has already passed. So you're having to be reactive instead of proactive. And that's the gap that we want to close. So we implement the AI connector directly to your NetSuite so that the data stops living in reports and starts answering questions in real time. But we see the connector as just a bridge. We see the real value is what we're able to build on top of that, which is we can engineer the instructions that tell the AI what to look at, what to flag, and how to surface these insights so that your team can rely on them and act on them immediately. So your CFO may ask a simple question, but what's running underneath to get that answer, it's a lot more sophisticated, and that's exactly what we can build for you. And can you go to the next slide? Thank you. And so on top of the connector, we also have the capability to build custom enhanced dashboards like the one you see on the screen. So what I mean by enhanced is, as you can see, it's not the out-of-the-box views, but it's a fully interactive dashboard that we built with the AI connector, and then we integrate that into your NetSuite. And we can build this dashboard around how your finance leaders actually think about the business. So if you wanted to see a tab regarding cash flow or project margins, spend variance, and all of this information would be on that dashboard in real time. But now, once we have that visibility, as we know, visibility is only half of the equation. The next challenge is taking action, and that's where the AP and AR side of things become critical, because we want to know how are we going to manage those cycles, how are we going to communicate with those vendors and customers, and how we're going to collect. And well, that's a whole discipline on its own, and that's exactly where our partners, our Quadient, come in. And I'll pass it to Selena.
Awesome. Thanks, Guillermo. And that's a really great explanation of those capabilities that you can use AI within NetSuite. Later on, Kristen and I will walk through what is that going to look like within the AP and the AR side. So moving on here with AI, it's already becoming a big part of our daily lives. I personally use it to build my travel plans whenever I go to Asia or anything like that. So it's really integrated into everyday life at this point. And it's also transforming how we're communicating with customers and vendors from a financial perspective. For AR teams, one of the biggest advantages is visibility into how and when customers prefer to communicate. AI can actually analyze the past interactions to recommend the best channels, timing, and frequency for outreach. Clear communication is critical, and AI helps here too. With generative tools like ChatGPT, Claude, can create customer-facing messages that remove complex finance jargon, making expectations easier to understand and improve the overall customer experience. So these tools can also adapt to your brand voice, whether that's casual and personable or more formal and highly professional. It really ensures consistency across the board with every interaction. Now, beyond the outbound communication, AI can also analyze incoming messages from customers or vendors, really understand the context, and then recommend the best next step. So moving into customer communications, whether it's routine inquiries or invoice disputes, the prioritization can be challenging. With AI, it brings clarity by analyzing every incoming message. So in some cases, it can take immediate action, like automatically sending an invoice if a customer says they haven't received one. And then it moves all the way into more complex issues where AI can assess the situation, prioritize them based on the urgency, and then helping your team focus on what really matters most. While often used for communications with customers, generative AI can also add significant value to the vendor interactions. So you're seeing AI-powered chatbots that can handle common vendor questions about invoice status, payments, and other AP topics. And then for email inquiries, it can analyze messages and generate accurate, timely responses. All in all, constant timely communications and the payments can really strengthen the vendor relationships. And this can also potentially earn you the preferred status along with better pricing and terms. Passing it over to Kristen now.
Oh my goodness, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you. Okay, so earlier we discussed predictive analytics as a way to forecast customer payment behavior. Now, one of the biggest benefits is helping AR teams reduce that risk of late payments and bad debt. So when we get to the demo portion, I'll show you a little bit about what that actually looks like. Now, by analyzing this historical payment patterns, AI can identify accounts that may be at risk before they become a problem. This gives the collection teams the opportunity to essentially take a proactive action rather than a reactive one after an invoice has already been overdue. The That action right there could include increasing outreach, offering payment plans, escalating disputes, or collaborating with sales and customer success teams to address any underlying issues. The result is a more strategic collection process and improved cash flow, reduce that bad debt exposure, and help teams focus their efforts on where they can have the greatest impact. Well, AI helps AR teams manage payment risk. It also plays a critical role in protecting AP teams from fraud. So some of the most common threats, including invoice fraud, where bad actors submit fake invoices or they'll alter payment details on legitimate ones. Duplicate payments are another risk, whether caused by manual error or fraudulent attempts to receive payments multiple times. AP teams also facing phishing or social engineering attacks where fraudsters impersonate vendors or coworkers to trick employees into changing banking information or improving payments. And then finally, there is expense fraud, where employees intentionally submit inaccurate or inappropriate expenses for reimbursement. These risks are difficult to identify manually, especially when teams are processing large volumes of transactions over and over again. Now, this is where AI provides significant value. AI excels at analyzing large volumes of data, identifying patterns, and then detecting abnormalities that would be nearly impossible to find manually. It learns what normal activity looks like and then immediately flags transactions that fall outside of those patterns. So, for example, AI can identify duplicate invoices, unexpected changes to vendor banking information, unusual payment activity, or transactions that don't align with that historical behavior. Over time, machine learning models become even more effective by continuously learning from new transactions and previously detected fraud attempts. Many solutions can also automate response actions, such as flagging transactions for review or blocking suspicious payments, or even triggering an investigation. So this all helps organizations stop fraud before money's even leaving the business. All right, and on to our last and final slide before we hop into the demos. So how do you successfully introduce AI into your finance organization? Well, like any transformation initiative, it all starts with defining the clear business goals, identifying the biggest pain point in your current process, and determining what success looks like to you. Whether that's reducing DSO, minimizing manual data entry, improving forecasting accuracy, or strengthening fraud prevention. Once objectives are established, creating a phased implementation roadmap with measurable milestones and regular checkpoints to track progress is important. In addition, selecting the right technology partner is equally as important. Looking for solutions that integrate with your existing systems, can scale with your business, and provide capabilities that address your specific AR and AP challenges. Finally, invest in your user adoption. Train your teams, gather feedback, monitor results, and continuously refine your process. Organizations that treat AI as an ongoing improvement initiative and not a one-time project tend to achieve the strongest long-term results. So with that, Selena, I'm going to kick it over to you now for the AP demo.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. So we're hopping into the demo portion of today's presentation. This is, I would say, the more fun stuff. Everybody wants to see everything in action. Now, because we only have limited time today for our demos, Kristen and I are going to go through a very high-level overview of what the system is going to look like. But if you're interested in some of the other bells and whistles that both systems offer, please let us know, put it into the chat that you're interested in a demo, and we'll get you into a more one-on-one meeting with one of our sales reps. But let's hop into it. So I just updated my screen here. You're going to see what we call Quadient accounts payable. Before jumping into the details, I'll quickly go over what you're seeing on the screen so it's easy to follow as we click through this demonstration. On the left over here, we have our 4 modules. So there's expenses where employees can submit their expense reports. We're also able to work with any corporate cards and bring in those credit card feeds. Purchase orders. So if you have any sorts of POs inventory that you're tracking in NetSuite right now, we can actually import those into our system. If you don't have purchase orders and that's one of your goals, we can also create them directly in our software. Invoices, that's the main character. of our system, which we're going to go into a little bit more in a second. And then finally, payments. So this is where you can manage payments going out to your vendors from here. Now, at the very top, you're going to see the workflow broken out from the left all the way to the right. So invoices, they'll come in, they'll start in new or in progress, graduate down the line until it hits archived. This acts like an online filing cabinet. And then down here is where you'll have the organization broken out. So within Quadient AP, we are able to work with multiple entity environments. So if you do have multiple, you can always select which ones you want to see. You'll also be able to select the status of invoices, so which ones are in progress, which ones are pending approval, all that good stuff. And then the organization can be broken out into this section here. So in my test example, you'll see we have the first entity that's broken out by the different departments, and then we can further segment it, really mirroring what's happening in your company right now. In the middle, this is the workspace. This is where you'll see all the invoices coming in. Now, talking about invoices, that's really the first step, is how do we get these invoices into Quadient AP? Now, 3 ways to get it in. First way is if you have paper copies, you can scan and then upload them here into the inbox. So let's pretend I've got an invoice and I'm going to drag and drop it here into the space. You'll see it uploaded right away. And then from this point on, it will then move into the invoice module once it's uploaded into the system. Now, the second way is, of course, if invoices are coming in through email, it'll automatically show up here in progress. And then the final way, let's say you have a handwritten invoice, you can go ahead and take your phone, take a picture of the invoice, and that will also load it here in progress. Now, where the AI comes in is once the invoices are in Quadient AP, we have AI that actually looks at this entire invoice. It'll grab the header information, so that's the invoice number, the vendor, the dates, the subtotals, totals, and taxes. To take it a step further, with line item capture, which is another component of our AI technology, it will use that to read the invoice line item details. So you'll see that the descriptions are going to be captured. You also have the unit cost, the rate, all the other good stuff captured at the very bottom. Now, something exciting about this is because we're also able to work with purchase orders, whether you're creating it in NetSuite or within here, we can automatically match the invoice to the PO and also adopt those lines for you as well. So typically, lines are already done at the PO level. We don't have to do it again at the invoice level. Here, it looks good. We're going to submit it out for approval. Now, from the approver's perspective, they do get an email notification to tell them, hey, you got invoices in your queue. And they can either hop on their phone or into the computer here to approve or reject the invoices. Now, to actually build out the approval channels, we'll hop into the settings here. And to keep in mind, you can actually build approvals for all of our modules. In this example, I'm in invoices. I'm going to go into invoices. And then from here, this is where you can start to have a lot of fun with creating approvals. And because we have an integration with NetSuite, all of your vendors, your GL accounts, other standard fields that you're using will be available for you to pull here. That way you can really create complex approval channels. But in this example, I have one created for marketing. I can set a range or a minimum if I'd like. And then because it's for marketing, I have org unit selected, but I'm going to take it a step further and narrow it down to the vendor as well. So once I hit save, now you have a visual of what this approval channel is going to look like. So this means any invoice coming in that's above $5,000 going to marketing, let's say from this vendor over here. Ooh, Air Canada, where are we flying? So from here, that will then send the invoices through to my approvers determined on the right. Oops. The computer is not collaborating with me. But essentially, with the approvals, it does move from one person to the next. So the invoice is always going to go to Alex first, and then over to Jill for final approval. If there are some people with the same level of approval, you can always put them into a group. So that means it goes to either Alex or Jill. Now it's a race. Whoever gets there first can approve the invoice. Popping back in here from the approver's perspective, they'll go in and then they can approve or reject this invoice from the top right. One thing to keep in mind, if you reject A comment does have to be left, so that way from an auditing perspective, you'll always understand why it was rejected, and you have that audit trail to follow you along with the invoice. But once everything is done, that will then move into the export step. So this is where we want to get everything back into NetSuite. Once we export this back, everything is going to look exactly the same as you've manually entered everything, except of course, all of it was done already in Quadient AP. And then from a reporting perspective, let's say you have month end, you have audits coming up. You can always pull up the historical information here in Archived. And you can always pull either a PDF or a CSV report if you want to dig into the numbers a little bit more. But that's it for our invoices today. Again, if you want to see something more detailed, please let us know. But with that, I will pass it over to Kristen to go over AR now.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you. Okay, let me just pull up my screen here really quickly. Okay, move you guys out of the way. Let me know. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Amazing. All right. So
Beautiful dashboard.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So what we're going to start off with here is the dashboard. I always like to show this because I think the best part about it is it's clean, it's appealing to the eye, and it's easy to kind of read and understand. So what you'll see up top here, again, this is our Quadient AR platform, so all AR focused, is a ribbon here. This ribbon you'll see this throughout the entire platform, which is nice. We kind of try to keep it cohesive so you know what you're looking at and you're familiar with that. The cool thing about this here is that you can see what's current, what's due, what's overdue, what's promised to be paid, pending and paid. And you can actually go ahead and click into any of these ribbons and see specifically what invoice is where and where it's at. Again, this gives you just kind of a general overview of where you are at from a collections perspective. In addition to that, what we like to show here is just some standard AR metrics that people like to track. We've got things like DSO, cash collected, and open invoices, all things that companies typically like to look at. Now, I spoke a lot about predictive analytics and where the AI comes into play in our software. And so I want to speak to that a little bit here on this dashboard. A cool thing to note is we use a predictive algorithm on the back end that helps predict some of our customers' scoring. So what we've done here in this chart is we've looked at every single one of our customers in the system. We've looked at their previous payer behavior, or their previous payments their previous payments made, and what their current and ongoing payment behavior looks like. Based on that, we're using AI and machine learning in the back end of our system to essentially give each one of your customers a grading score. So similar to school, A being the best, D being the worst kind of payer. As your customers continue to pay, our system is monitoring that and upgrading these scores, kind of letting you know where those customers sit. So as you go, the system will basically flag like, hey, Reardon Steel is a great customer, but they're turning down, and so maybe something to note or keep track of. Okay, as we continue to go down here, some other things I like to point out is the on-time payment projection for current invoices. This is essentially kind of like a cash forecasting chart that I think is always helpful for companies to look at. You can actually drill down into each date here and see what exactly by invoice is projected to be paid, daily promises to pay, all of that details here. So again, it gives you just kind of that high level insight and data. As you continue to drill down here, we're looking at this chart. This chart helps, again, just look at past payer behaviors and helps your AR team decide where they should focus their time. So I wanted to focus on high risk payers, people that are unlikely to pay on time, rather than those that are reoccurring paying at the same time every month. So that's kind of a high level, but we'll hit on the dashboard. If we keep cruising here, I'm going to head on over to workflows. This is a lot where most of the automation sits in our system. So workflows are like typical outreach processes that companies have. You can make a ton of different workflows, whatever your company might need. So this right here is like a small business workflow. Sometimes people will create like white glove workflows, or they'll create workflows based on region, or, you know, if there's different languages. Again, it just depends on how your customer base is broken down. Now, you can adjust it pretty easily, however you need. So I always like to show how to add a role in the system, because I like to show how easy it is. So if you need to add a role to your workflow, all you do is you go ahead and click add role. Let's say there's a credit card expiring in a month. What we want to do is add an action to that. You can go over here, create a task, tell one of your AR employees to go check in on what's happening over there, and you hit save, and then that rule will get saved into the workflow. So that just helps streamline the process and shows you how easy it is to create those. Now, if we go over to global rules, I like to think of global rules kind of as they're like annoying items that your AR team has to deal with, but things that don't happen on a daily basis. So I know I just made a rule for credit cards expiring, but let's use that as an example, right? Or here, we'll use one of these here. So we'll say balance is approaching credit limit. What the system automatically is going to do is they're going to create a task to do a credit line review, and they're also going to go ahead and send an email out to the billing contact to let them know that it's approaching their credit limit. So again, this is all set up and automated within the system without having to have your AR team focused on that or miss something like that. Okay, so let's keep going over to email templates. I always like to show some templates. We have a ton of email templates here that are already provided for everyone so that they can kind of pick and choose what they want to use. We use dynamic data tags within our templates. So it will automatically pull invoice due date, customer company name, statement link, any information that you want. And a cool thing here is that we use AI to generate templates based on template names and subject lines if you want to do that as well. So you can just go ahead and click that and it will create one for you as well. I always think that's kind of a cool thing, as you can see it. Okay, so let's keep cruising here. Okay, what I want to take you guys to next is a customer payment, what our customer portal looks like. So this is what your internal team will see. I like to show this because it's kind of, you'll see that same ribbon here. So this is specific to that customer. But then it also shows open invoices, closed invoices, credits, payments, adjustments, sales orders, all of that stuff in one spot so that your AR teams know where to look. Not only that, you can action upon items specifically right from this dashboard, which makes it super easy. If I need to, I can just highlight and send out a reminder, about a past due payment or whatever needs to be done. In addition, I like to kind of say we're like a CRM system for all things related to collections. You will see all the activities logged down here. So you can see all the activity that happens on the account with the customer so that none of the customers ever fall through the cracks. But you'll see activities, emails, mails, call logs. You can see disputes, tasks on the accounts, anything that's really important for your teams, it's all populated in this one area. The other cool thing that I like to show quickly is around payments. So we can do pay on account. We can also do recurring payments. Companies can enter in their payment credit card information and it will save to the account for them. You can also add contacts, documents, and anything else that you might need. So now this is what your internal team will be able to see. But if we go over here, this is what an actual customer is seeing. Now, what you'll notice is that these systems look these links look pretty similar, which is nice. So if your AR person's ever on the phone with someone trying to direct them where to go, they can kind of know what they're doing because it looks similar, which is nice. Now, each one of the customers will get an individualized and secure statement or link to the payment portal, so they won't have to log into an account ever, which is very nice because we all forget what accounts we have. And if you go in here, they'll be able to action upon invoices. They'll be able to see history, so closed invoices, payments, all of the above in one spot. So they don't have to bother your AR teams internally for this information. They can also add their payments here, which will be saved for them. It's all easy in one spot, which is great. And then last but not least, I always like to touch on our cash application process because there is some AI embedded into this as well as throughout the entire system. I just like to show it here. So we can connect to any remittance inbox, which essentially pulls in bodies of emails, any attachments, and we're using OCR and AI technology in the backend to essentially go and read each of those attachments and what's in those email bodies. And then what we'll do is we'll take those and we'll match it to we'll match the payments to the invoices and the customers. So let me show you a quick example. We have Huli here. Huli has sent us some remittance details. So if we go ahead and click into that, I have it up here, you'll see that Huli sent an email. The email says, hello, Quadient. We sent out 3 payments yesterday. Please apply them as shown on the remittance below. If you click on the screenshot here, what you'll see, so this was attached in the email sent. What you'll see is this is an example of SAP. It's their 3 invoices broken down and how much they each were for. So now what our system's done is it separated each of those. If you go back to the cash application piece here, it's separated each of those into 3 different categories here, each associated with the amount, and then it's attached it and matched it to the customer record for them there. So that's the AI working in the back end, helping you match those and expedite that process, because I know checking those remittances can be painful from time to time. The last thing I always like to note is we've got a little AI assistant up here. It's kind of like a chat bot. Just highlighting other AI features that we have. But that is all I have for the AR side. Okay, so we'll stop sharing this. I know we're getting close to time here. Selena, I think we had one last slide on the deck to wrap us up before we were going to jump into questions. And that was perfect. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. And that was just a case study, a story for you guys to see. So quickly I can go through this and then we can hop over to questions and we'll wrap it up for the day. So if we're looking at AI in action within finance, we're talking about CPL today. It's a global staffing company. They struggled with inefficient AR processes before implementing Quadient AR. Their team relied super heavily on spreadsheets to identify which accounts needed follow-up, which caused them to miss accounts, it strained customer relationships, and they had a ton of cash flow challenges. Now, the lack of visibility, it also created friction between their AR and their sales teams, as the finance team couldn't often clearly explain credit decisions or account status updates. With Quadient AR, CPL now uses AI-driven forecasting powered by 2 algorithms. One that predicts which invoices are likely to be paid on time, while other analyzes overdue invoices and forecasts expected payment timing by aging bucket. This allows the team to prioritize high-risk and high-value accounts before they become delinquent. AI insights have also improved collaborations with sales by providing clear visibility into customer payment behavior and accounts requiring follow-up. In addition, the machine learning has streamlined the cash application process, kind of like I showed previously when payments arrived without enough remittance information. That AR staff has spent significant amount of time researching the customer records and communications. Now with AI, it can help predict which accounts the payments belongs to, which is dramatically reducing manual work for them. According to David Martin, the results have been improved productivity, smarter customer communications, and a more strategic AR function. By automating those repetitive tasks and servicing actionable insights, AI has given the team more time to support the broader business and strengthen that cash flow management, which is awesome. And with that, we will head on over to, we've got about 5 minutes left for some Q&As. If anyone has questions, feel free to go ahead and drop that in the chat.
See, we
In a minute. I was very, very excited that you.
Kristen, I see one question popping up. So the first one is, how long does it take to get these solutions implemented, and what type of support is offered? Why don't you go first with the AR side?
Great question. So it takes about, on average, it takes about 72 days for us to get implemented, just to make sure, and that includes, sorry, captions and feedback.
Not showing up a lot.
And that
We just got
includes,
Mario Golf on the meeting.
I think we should mute
Suzanne,
everyone really quickly. Sorry, I don't know if you could hear. Can you hear me?
yeah, there's
Things are-
audio
things are
coming
fine.
from somewhere
We'll
though.
make do.
Okay.
I think it's
Um,
Selena. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. I was like, I don't know if they can hear me. Okay, anyways, yeah, so on average, it takes about 72 days to implement on the AR side, and that includes everything from connecting the solution to setting up your workflows to training and all of the above. So we make sure you're all set and ready to go before we just set you off. And then Selena?
Well, sorry guys, I'm in the sales pit today, and as you know, salespeople, we love to chat. But for implementation on the AP side, it's about 2 to 3 weeks, and we split it out into 3 meetings. So the first meeting, for integrating with NetSuite, because we have an API connector, it's going to be like this to get connected. Then once we get it connected, we feed a couple of test invoices through to make sure it's all good. Once that's done, the second meeting is to configure the workflow. Who's approving invoices? What is that going to look like? And then the final one is for training. So we want to make sure we are moving along with you guys as we implement this entire new process. So we are able to set up extra training meetings if you need. All in all, I would say it takes about maybe 4 hours with all these 3 meetings put together. A lot of times teams will like to do it 1 week at a time. So we say 3 weeks. I have seen people do it in a week, which is quite fast, but really depends on how quickly you want to get this set up. Throughout the process, both AP and AR, our teams will kind of check in and work with you on how quickly you want to set this up, and we'll work with your time frame. Support, we do have a dedicated customer success manager on the account. So managing, making sure you're happy using the system. We do also have a support team. You can call them, you can email them. They're readily available throughout the day too.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's actually what I didn't touch on for the AR side. The support is the same. You'll have a customer success manager as well, that you can call and email at any time.
There is another question. I'm wondering if there's anything you can share regarding forward-looking AI roadmaps. That's from William.
That's a great question. With AI, things are always changing. I can definitely add, that's something I'd have to get back to on the roadmap parts. Lena, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, that's like Kristen said, AI is always changing. One big component that we always want to prioritize on the AP side is really the capture of invoices. If it's not capturing, then we are not living up to our name. So we're always applying AI to how quickly we can capture invoice information, actually starting June 1st, which is literally next week, which is wild. We have our newly launched AI capture services. So that will really bring in the invoice information more in real time. You don't have to wait more than a couple of minutes for everything to be captured. So that's really exciting because AI is always changing, everyone's moving quickly. So we want to make sure we're also meeting what's happening in the industry standards. So that's something more on the AP side. I'm sure that's something that's also being prioritized is, getting all of those templates out faster. But William, I feel like we should have a more in-depth conversation. I know people are starting to hop off, but we are going to have our sales team reach out to do follow up. So anybody that is interested in more of an in-depth conversation, let us know now. But heads up, we'll be reaching out to make sure you guys are getting all of your questions answered as well.
And just to jump in briefly, and regarding the NetSuite side, NetSuite is trying to also stay ahead of this AI movement that's going on, and that's why they came up with the MCP connector, which integrates AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude into NetSuite. Also, they released a bundle called the AI Service Companion, where you can save those prompts so that your team can have them directly within NetSuite and ask Claude. And also they're releasing soon the NetSuite Next, which will have also a lot of AI, much more AI than we currently see right now within the ERP. But that I think that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, thank you for your question, William.
All right.
Any other questions?
I think that's it for the questions. But yes, William, we'll be in touch to answer some more detailed questions. Other than that, thank you so much for attending, everybody. Really appreciate everybody's insight and collaboration. Special thanks to Sky High as well. This has been an amazing experience. We'll be in touch very shortly with everybody, but have a great rest of your day. And hopefully we'll chat soon.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Take care. Bye.